only 2 people in the lobby. So it might just be worth waiting another couple of minutes for people to arrive.
Sure, yeah. Hang fire a moment.
Any more people join, but I wonder if it's worth just doing it anyway. And we can send
Let's go for it.
I
think let's go for it. Yep. Cool. Good to go. Cool. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first live stream. How this is going to work today, as I'm sure you're aware, our first session is all about milk texture. So how to create the perfect milk texture. So what we're going to do is break it down for you. We'll go through latte milk, because obviously that's usually the core one that people really want to perfect and that they struggle with. So we're going to go through, how to make really silky, beautifully textured milk. So especially for those of you that are wanting to progress onto latte art, or it might be that you might have started doing a few patterns, but they're not quite perfect, or you're struggling to get them consistent every time, because obviously it's all about consistency, especially when you come on to sort of competition level. Everything needs to look exactly the same. So we're going to go through that. Then we're going to move on and touch on cappuccino milk. So show you how to steam cappuccino milk. And then we'll pour some shots as well, and put the two together. I'll show you as well that there's, not a huge difference between a latte and a flat white. So we'll go through that as well. A lot of it is just to do with the cup size. These are just all areas that usually people are sort of sometimes a little bit unsure about. So we'll go through that. And what we'll do is at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for Matt is very kindly on the laptop. You can't see him. He's a bit just out of shot. But say any questions that you have, we'll get you to type them in, and then I will then answer them for you, or I'll certainly try to best as I can. So yeah, say hold any questions you have throughout the session. If you hold them until the end, that would be amazing. And then fire away at the end, and I'll answer them for you as best I can. Perfect. Let's get cracking. So first thing, that we're going to talk about is latte milk. So it's really important to start with that your milk is really nice and cold. So this is really cold out of the fridge. Another top tip as well, and you might not have one of these fancy jug rinsers or pitcher rinser, but a cold tap is fine. So just rinse the jug with cold water and you're ready to go. Okay, so we're going to start by pouring that into the jug. Now, a top tip, I don't know if you can see that, I'll show you on the side here, is a general rule of thumb is your milk level should be just touching the bottom of the spout. So that is a perfect amount of milk to be working with. You want to make sure that you've got enough in the jug. If you've only got sort of that much, you haven't got enough milk in there to work with. It's just going to be really bubbly. And again, you're not going to get a nice looking latte, and ultimately as well, it's not going to taste good. You want it to be really silky and creamy. So we're going to start by giving a little blast on the steam arm. So what we're doing is getting out any water that's collected in there. We're going to pull the steam arm out towards us, and what we're going to do is use the side of the machine to help us But if ultimately what we're trying to do is to get the tip of the steam arm over to one side of the jug. So if you can see that, so just over to one side. So you can see that we're about 1 centimetre out from one side. And what that's going to do is make the milk naturally spin around the jug. So depending on if you're left or right-handed, you'll sort of hold it potentially like this if you're left-handed, or like that if you're right-handed, but it is personal preference. Some people do prefer to hold it in the other hand. And then, so once you've decided which hand you're going to hold the handle with, you'll then use the other hand for turning on and for feeling for temperature. Now, you see so many baristas up and down the country make this mistake. And what they do is they'll turn the steam arm on and they'll leave their hand up on the lever. But of course, you don't have a clue what temperature that milk is currently. So what you need to do is, as soon as you turn that on, bring your hand straight down to the jug and feel for temperature. So that's what we're going to do, okay? And you can hear that nice ticking noise. Now what that's doing is just very slowly creeping the texture into the milk. And what you want is for it to sort of really just be creeping in very slowly. Now I'm waiting for it to get too hot to touch, and then I'm going to turn it off. So it's really important not to go past 70 degrees Celsius, which for most people is too hot to touch. But it's really important that, say, you keep your hand on there. Don't do this. Don't be doing this, because you don't know what the true temperature is. So once we've done that, we're going to give it a bang. Let's just get your bubbles out. You might not have any bubbles, so you don't have to do loads. There's nothing more annoying than you go in a coffee shop or in a hotel and there's someone who's like, it's not great, is it? So it doesn't look professional, and it's a right racket that you don't need. So just 1 or 2 solid bangs to get your bubbles out. And then you want to polish. So we're just going to swirl the milk, making sure it's nice and silky and shiny, and you should be able to see the light in it like that. So some people say it's a bit like wet paint or single cream. So you want it to be nice and creamy and silky. Okay. So that is how you make latte milk. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to break it down, and I'm going to pour a shot and sort of put the two together for you to show you. So I'm just going to pour a shot. It's very strange not having you here to be able to get you on the machine and have a go. I look forward to hearing how you guys get on. Okay, so we're going to do the same again. I'm just going to do a bit of a recap. It can be a lot of information, especially if it's sort of the first time doing it, or you've like picked up a few bad habits as the years have gone on. Let's clean this up. Okay, so just to recap, so our milk level is just touching the bottom of the spout. What we want to do is texture the milk when the milk's cold. So we're going to make sure that the nozzle is this little nozzle on the end, or the nipple on the end. You only want sort of half of that submerged in the milk. Now what that will do is, because that's near the surface, that will start to thicken the milk. And if you hear it suddenly like rushing too much into your milk, then all you need to do, don't panic, touch the steam arm down very slightly into the milk. And then what that will do is stop that from happening. So it's basically, if you're too far down the steam arm, it's going to rush loads of air in and you'll end up with really bubbly milk. Or if it's too far down in the milk, it will make this horrible screeching noise, which we've all heard in cafes, and it's going, ah! And it sounds horrendous. And you're just going to have no texture in your milk. So it's getting that fine line, getting that positioning right, and then you'll be laughing. Okay, so we're going to do another recap. So we're going into the machine. The jug's tilting towards us so we can see what's going on. And then we're going to touch the steam arm down into the milk so that we're just like that. I'll just do that again so you can see that. So, okay, so we're going down so it's halfway, and then we're then turning it so it's over to one side. Okay, so then we're going to turn it on there. We're going to bring our hand down, and we've got that lovely ticking noise. It's nice and controlled, just creeping in that texture. That's all we need. And I'm just waiting for it to get too hot to touch on my hand, and then I'm going to turn it off. Okay, it's easy as that. It's just all about really small movements. That's all it is. Wipe the steam on, blast it, bosh, give it a bang, 1, 2 bangs, polish, nice and shiny, silky, gorgeous milk. Look at that, look at that. Then we're going to get our espresso, and we're just going to combine the two together. So we've got our milk there, espresso here. I'm going to start to pour around. Going to push down, lift up, and pour through. There you go. Cheers. Cool. So that is, that is sort of the main thing to like really master with when it comes to the milk. It's like really just breaking everything down, getting your temperature right, getting your texture right. Making sure you've got a cold jug, cold milk, and you'll be sorted. Okay, so that is a latte. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do a flat white. Okay, so we're going to pour our cold milk into the jug. Same thing again, so just touching the bottom of the spout. So you'll notice I'm using a smaller jug this time. Now the reason being, flat white, and I'm sure a lot of you will know, is it's served in a smaller cup. So you don't get small or large flat whites, or you shouldn't do. There are some coffee shops that now do that. But technically, a flat white is supposed to be a 6 or 8 ounce drink, so much smaller. And then our lattes are usually served in a 12 ounce cup. So it's more diluted. So same amount of coffee in both, double shot of espresso, but because we've got more milk going into the latte, it's more diluted. Therefore, it's a slightly weaker drink and not as strong, as intense as a flat white. So there you go. So we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to prepare our espresso. So I'm not going to go too depth into the espresso today. Get that pouring. And you'll notice as well that I poured the milk in the jug first. So that's a really top tip, especially for those of you in busy environments, to pour the milk in the jug first, gets it prepped, ready. There's nothing worse than you pour the shot and then you realise you're out of milk and you've got to go back into the kitchen to go and get the milk. Or go milk the cow or wherever you've got to get your milk from. It's just going to waste time. So just think about that as well. Okay. Cool. And then exactly the same as before. So purge the steam arm, pull it out, rest it on the side, drop it down so it's just touching in the milk, turn it on, creeping that texture in. Now this time it's all about practice, but you don't want to be creeping in quite as much texture. So I waited till it was too hot to touch and then turned it off. But you don't want it to be, because you're in a smaller jug especially, it's obviously you're working with less milk. So obviously the bigger volume of milk you're working with, the more you're going to have to do everything too. So the longer it's going to take to heat, the more you're going to have to texture it. So just think about that. So so make sure that you're just creeping in a little bit. But it's all practice. If you do one and it comes out and it's too thin and watery and it's not creamy, then do it again, and then that next time I need to put in a little bit more texture. So, and that's how that's the best way to learn. So we've got this lovely silky milk again, so nice and creamy and silky. Yeah. Okay. And then we've got our espresso here. Okay, and then same again. We're going to pour around. So mixing the two together. Drop down. And pour through. Okay. Cool. Yeah. We're not going to go too in depth into latte art today, guys. So that will be another time. So we'll go into further depth in that. But I just want to get you sort of really mastering the milk, getting comfortable with that, and then the latte art will really start to come. A good place to start with your latte art actually would be a heart. I would really recommend, if you are interested in this, is to really practice pouring the perfect heart. Once you've mastered that, then you can sort of progress on to tulips. So like I've done here. So this is a 3-part tulip. Okay, and this is a 2-part tulip. Okay, so just really nice, simple, crisp designs that are a really easy way to wow your guest and to, make their experience, that much more enjoyable. And it just looks really professional and lovely. So that's a really great place to start. Then from there, I then say you could then start on rosettas. But what a lot of people do is they'll start trying to do that one first, and they'll just end up looking like sort of feathers, and they don't look that amazing. So I'd always recommend starting with hearts and tulips and then progress from there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is cappuccino. So I'm going to show you how to make the perfect cappuccino. So very similar to before. So cold milk into the jug. But this time around, we want slightly less milk. So we want it so that it's just below or a bit lower than before. So rather than just touching the bottom of the spout, we're actually now down about 1 centimetre off the bottom of the spout. Okay, and that's just to give us a bit more room to allow for stretching the milk. Okay, so we're going to prepare our espresso. Okay, so same as before, we want to always purge that steam arm. So give it a good blast, get rid of any water in there. Now what we're going to do this time is we're going to actually be pulling the jug back towards us. Now why we want to do that is because you know that I mentioned before about having that milk level sort of halfway through the nozzle on the end. Well, we want that with the cappuccino as well, but we want to keep it there for pretty much the whole entire process. Whereas with the latte milk, we want it to sort of start here, but then the milk level about halfway through the process wants to be up here. So we've sort of crept that texture in, but because we've left the jug, then that milk level obviously rises or stretches once you've textured it. So this nozzle's then submerged, so it won't then thicken the milk anymore after that. Okay, so with the cappuccino, what we want to do is keep that going. So we want to keep texturing it, keep that stretching. We want to make some like really nice microfoam. So we're going to keep pulling the jug backwards to keep that nozzle near the surface and keep it going. It's quite straightforward, really, but it's just getting your head around it. Okay, so same as before, keep the steam arm straight to the machine, pull it out. Jug up on the side of the machine, and we're going to drop it down so it's resting in the spout, and then so it's down in the milk, same as before. I'll move out of the light so you can see that. Yeah, cool. So we're going to turn it on there, hands straight down on there and down on there, and this time I'm going to pull it back like this. You don't want to pull it too fast. And you need to watch the milk because you don't want to obviously overflow. And then same as before, when it's too hot to touch, then turn it off. Okay, wipe the steam arm, blast it. And you'll notice that I'm always doing this before I've poured the drink. That's key. It's getting that muscle memory of always wiping your wand before you pour the drink. There's nothing worse than a dirty wand. Not good. Okay, so bang the jug, polish it. Beautiful. So you can see that we've got this lovely silky milk again, but it's much thicker. It's like marshmallows. That's what we're looking for, okay? Like a big marshmallow. Alrighty, and then we're going to get our jug, our cup rather. And what we're going to do is actually tilt the cup so that espresso is near the rim of the cup. And we're going to almost touch this on the side of the cup. Put it in, and we're going to straighten it. Like so. There you go. That's how to make a cappuccino. Beautiful. Cool. So, and then obviously you can add chocolate by all means. Some people don't like it, but personally I think it's, you know, very classic way of doing it. I think it's probably more of a UK thing rather than a European thing, but yeah, up to you. The one thing I would say about chocolate is to have a bit of a standard. So I would say that I'd recommend that across the group that you make sure that you're, you know, just putting the chocolate in one way. So whether that be, you know, just over to one side or in the middle, or, you know, it looks again more professional if you're all doing it in the same way, and it makes things a lot slicker. Cool. So I'm just going to do a recap on the cappuccino milk one more time, just so that you're happy with that. So again, you want it cold milk and just about a centimetre below the bottom of the spout. Okay. Purge. Make sure you're over to one side of the jug. So that side or that side. Turn it on. Then start to pull. What I do is sort of pull and pause. So you pull a little bit, let it catch up, pull it a bit again, let it catch up, and then wait for it to get too hot to touch. Turn it off. Wipe your wand, blast it. Then you can bang and polish. Okay, and then pour. And then I'll do it in this little cup just to show you that. And then rest it on the side, tilt the cup, pour it in, and straighten as it starts to fill up. There you go. Cheers. So yeah, if you guys, so now this is your time. So you know, if you say, feel free, if you've got any questions, bang them in the comments. Yeah, Matt will tell me if any of you have got any questions. I'm going to stand here and enjoy one of my flat whites. And hopefully that was helpful. But say if there's anything that if you can think of that you're unsure about, I'm more than happy to help. It makes such a huge difference to the coffee having that silky, creamy milk. It really does. And say not only visual, but obviously the texture and the temperature as well. If you're overheating your milk, so if you're scrambling the milk and taking it too hot, it's just going to taste really bitter and unpleasant and doesn't complement the coffee. Milk rather has a natural sweetness up until about sort of 65, 70 degrees. And then after that, what happens is the milk denatures. So the particles break down and it starts to become like really bitter and quite unpleasant. So I'd really recommend, you know, making sure that you've got a nice, creamy, silky, sweet milk like that. And hopefully now you'll be able to all be professionals, and you'll be practicing your latte art very soon. But it's lots of practice. So it's the one thing I'd say is go away, just practice, and you'll get there. Yeah. Any questions come through? Or no? Well, thank you so much, guys. I hope this was helpful, and hope to catch you on the next one. Thank you so much.